government activities as well as disaster and anti-terrorism. This whole thing is designed and built and set up to not just suppress the American people, but also to take over governorships, to take over states, and the congressional legislature, the Congress. And remember, 6 weeks ago, now almost $8 trillion stolen by the offshore private banks through the banker takeover bill, they threatened martial law. The Congress was threatened with martial law by Secretary of Treasury Henry Paulson. And Senator Inhofe is now on record that that's who made the threats. We had other congressmen on who were told the threat, but were told under House rules and Senate rules that they could not speak about it because it was in a closed meetings. That's right. Congress closes up the doors and went in there, and Paulson told them, with Bernanke sitting right to his left. So that's how they operate, ladies and gentlemen. There's no way to get around this. There's no way to twist this in your minds. There's no way to distract yourself from what's happening. I mean, let's just look at Katrina alone. It's on record. It was in hundreds of newspapers. We interviewed some of the heads of the parishes all over Louisiana. After the hurricane went over, remember it took about 12 hours for it to flood and for the levees to break. FEMA went in and cut the generator power, sabotaged the generators owned by the parishes, by the counties. Parishes in Louisiana are the counties. Same thing. People always email me and ask me what I'm talking about. Here in Texas, we live next to Louisiana, so we know a little bit more about the state than some. I just forget how ignorant the public is on average. I mean, I meet people from New York all the time who are really smart, competent people, but they really believe we ride horses to work in Texas and that we live in log cabins. But side issue, the point here is that FEMA went in and sabotaged and cut lines. And then police in the main parish that New Orleans is based in, the county, went in, and this has been on national television, went in and fixed it, and FEMA showed up with guns and said, we are cutting the power. We are cutting the power to police and fire and emergency management radios. And the police in one parish actually had to point their rifles at FEMA and say, no, you're not, under orders of the sheriff and under orders of the head emergency manager in the parish. On record. Go pull it up. Now, why would FEMA go in right before the levees broke and cut communication? Well, I believe the hundreds of witnesses that said they saw a giant explosion and saw Army troops in the area right before it happened where the levees got blown. 80-plus years before, it's on record that the federal government blew the levees to flood the lower wards and to save the more wealthy areas of town. That's why there's that story going around originally, because it's on record. But we don't know if they blew the levees. We know they blew it in the last big flood there that killed thousands from another hurricane. But we know, and it's not like the whole government's evil. You know, I had family, there in helicopters in the week after, saving people off rooftops. Most of the Army was out there trying to do a job. It's compartmentalization. They didn't know that FEMA cut the police communication lines to make local government look inept and to say, oh, look, FEMA needs unlimited power and control through Northcom. You see, by, quote, screwing up, they can then say, see, we need even more power, more funding, when they already had basically omnipotent power and unlimited funding. So the police were then, later were criticized, saying, oh, 2/3 of the New Orleans police walked off the jobs. Well, they're used to being micromanaged. They're not trained to go on their own initiative. They're not trained that if communications are cut off, what to do. They're told everything, including how to wipe their behinds. They are micromanaged. They are controlled. And so suddenly their communications don't work. And after about 6 hours of that, yes, 2/3 of them walked off and went home to their families, take care of their families. And they said, oh, look at these inept locals. They don't know what they're doing. Meanwhile, FEMA would go in with fire axes and hack the communication lines, rip them out, rip them down, and then the police would come in and jury rig it and fix it with the county engineers, the parish engineers, and FEMA would come back with guns, pointing guns at them. Now, those FEMA guys are the bad guys. But FEMA itself is highly compartmentalized. I mean, you think about how diabolical it is for FEMA, we learned almost 3 years ago now, to go around the country and hire 13,000 preachers, and they doubled those in 2007 to 26,000, and to secretly train them. We have their training manuals to submit to Romans 13, do what the government says, go to FEMA camps, turn your guns in, take inoculations, let them take your children. And then we even had all the videos. Suddenly the TV preachers were saying exactly that on television. Flocks were being taught that at their churches. And people didn't believe us, even though we had the secret FEMA documents, even though we had several of the preachers on, even though I independently verified this is going on in Austin, Texas. And then it came out. I mean, how diabolical is it that we have this huge black op government doing drills in the majority of U.S. cities and towns, thousands of drills going back 20 years, where the Army comes in, the Marines come in, generally the two groups. Other armed services have been involved in smaller operations, sometimes assisting, and they just show up. They covertly give the town, $500,000, even in small towns. They give cash on the side to police chiefs, sheriffs, emergency managers. I've got police chief of San Antonio on video saying they tried to bribe him, that they did bribe other city officials. Then I talked to Austin police, who they approached, and Travis County Sheriff's Department people. You want me to name one? Lieutenant Beck, the head of the Travis County SWAT team. They approached him. I had talked to him 6 months before, and he laughed at me. I ran into him at the courthouse. He called me up and said, "Come up to my office, please. How did you know about this? Again, who are you? Who are you working for? How did you know Delta Force would come here and do this?" And I said, "Sir, they're going to every county in Texas. That's why I said, have they been to you yet?" And the guy, the Marine Corps, Vietnam vet, head of the SWAT team, laughed at me. But you know what? He was a real American. He wasn't laughing after he found out it was all true. And then they fired him, by the way. And the next time I showed up at the SWAT team office, guess what videos I saw? And they weren't put out for me to see them. When I was walking in the door in one of the little office areas, I saw Oklahoma bombing cover-up. Police State 2000. I saw my film and other films. They had decided they better look into what I was saying. And you know what? Those men went down the rabbit hole. The new commander seemed friendly enough, but he was looking at me like he was on a rabbit hunt, though. You could see it in the eyes. When I was in Luby's one day eating by myself, about, 2 years ago, he came up, sat down at the table by me, was trying to assess me. Assess me? I'm a defender of the Republic. I learned that private corporations have taken over our military and have a long-term, almost 30-year plan to overthrow the United States. And as a defender of the Republic, I'm here trying to warn people. That's who I am. You want to assess me? Go ahead. You want to assess me? That's who I am. It's what I stand for. And I'm not going to be conned, especially when it's all in black and white in my face. When I go witness Marines all over the country training to take our guns and admitting it's for the United States, I know treason when I see it. When the North American Union is openly being set up and Judicial Watch sues and gets the secret documents, and they start off by saying, we've got to keep this secret from the public. We're going to set up carbon taxes, put troops on the streets of America, bring in world government. I know treason when I see it. This government claims it's our government, wraps itself in the flag, and everything's about how it's for the troops and how they care about the troops and all of this propaganda. The people running this country are anti-American. They're globalists. They want to destroy our sovereignty. They want to capture the United States. And you know what? They have captured it. And now they're trying to consolidate that power and crack down on the public because they're about to suck your bank accounts dry and you're about to all lose your jobs and crime's going to explode in the streets. They know they're social engineers. They're behavioral psychologists, the people that study civilization. They know exactly what's going to happen. Now people are saying, well, Alex, we do need the army on the streets. There's about to be a depression and crime's up. And so the public, is going to need this. As if it all just now got set up. As if it all just suddenly popped out of a jack-in-the-box. 30 plus years. The 30 years we know of, preparation for all of this. Public information since 1984. All set up beforehand, and then they come out in the Washington Post today, and the first line in the article is about how, they're just now setting this up. It's happening. It's happening now.